Waiting.
Okay. All right. Well, hello. My name is Wade, and
Hi, Wade.
I'm doing this for Events Magazine Online. And I watched the documentary, and I've got some questions for you. So,
Cool.
oh, also, this is for my podcast too, just so you know.
Oh, great.
Um,
Okay.
I I believe I made that known. So, um, all right. So, when you first spoke publicly in 2019, did you imagine it would lead to a movie like this?
No,
Or
not in a zillion years, let alone six.
okay.
I basically thought I was just gonna get this out there to hopefully help some people and then kind of move along with my life the way it always had been, playing concerts and stuff. Um, and it was mostly, well, I guess entirely just because of the sheer amount of people who reached out after the article and realizing that these stories need to get out there and change needs to happen, and what better way to do it than through film, because an article, it's up there for a day and it's people forget
Yeah.
people forget so quickly when something is so ephemeral. And so films are around to last, and also it's a great way of being able to put many stories into one thing, I guess, into one element. And I had some experience in music videos. Like, I totally realized that making a music video of yourself playing violin is very far removed from a full-length documentary about abuse in the music world. But I thought, well, look, I've got a camera and I know how to edit, so why don't I start talking to these people? And so
Sure.
in the beginning, it was just me and one little camera, and eventually, I ended up um, getting a team together that helped with everything. And yeah, eventually it wasn't just me and a little camera.
Yeah.
Thank God, because I don't think it would be a very good movie if it had just been me all the way through. But yeah, so and everybody, my team really is totally behind the film and the message that we want to get out there, which is this crap has to change.
So was it a strange experience being both a subject and the director because you're kind of in both categories, I guess, in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm the director because nobody else is, but to be fair, nothing was like scripted except for voiceover.
Sure.
Like, I just sat and talked to these people and just let them tell their story, with the occasional little question pepper or whatever. Um, so and I think it was because these are people who reached out to me, right? So they knew my story and they reached out because they knew it. And so therefore it was easier. Well, it's never easy to talk about this stuff, but I think it was easier for them to just talk to me alone rather than in a studio with lighting guys and I don't know, sound guys and stuff like that. There, I feel like I got some real heartfelt testimonials out of them, and such genuine integrity because they knew that they were talking to somebody who understood from the inside out.
And whenever like a story like this comes out, there are always some people who will instantly side with the victim, and then it seems like there's always somebody who sides with the victimizer as well. So, what are your thoughts on that? Because that seems to always happen, almost always, I should say.
There is a really incomprehensible culture of victim blaming, which I obviously abhor. Um, when I came out with my one in the Inquirer, I have to say that something like 97%, maybe even more, was positive and thank you and gratitude for coming out. Thank you for doing this, this kind of thing. And people saying, I'm with you, all the way. And there were, a couple of trolls, probably some old stupid fat dudes in their mom's basement. Because that's what you can do these days, right? You can just be an online troll and nobody knows who you are. So but yeah, so I blissfully didn't have too much of that. But I mean, I've seen it so many times in that, when a victim comes forward, well, what were you wearing? Oh, well, did you drink a lot? Like, oh my gosh, well, you let him on, like it to me, I don't understand that. And anybody who does that, I really am not interested in speaking to any further. Anyone who victim blames like that.
All right. And there were, let's see, there were a lot of different stories, but a lot of them have similar characteristics, experiences.
Hmm.
And of course, they were from different countries and technically different institutions and all that. So, are there any patterns that surprised you about the stories that accumulated?
One of my big surprises was the sheer amount of institutional complicity. Like, I thought that Curtis was so horrible to me and that they were the only horrible school. Like, probably all these other schools like really help their students and they're like super nice and stuff. And that turned out to absolutely not be the case whatsoever. That pretty much without exception, every school tried as much as possible to protect the predator and shove the victim away and brush everything under the carpet. So, their reputation to most of these schools and orchestras, and in a way the opera world as well, their reputation and the reputation of their famous men that they give this godlike status to is way more important to them than the humanity of a child or a woman or a student.
Sure.
So
Well, there's a
that was horrifying, obviously, to find out, but I was surprised. I really thought it was
right.
just Curtis that was so shitty. Oh, I mean, crappy. Sorry.
Well, that's all right. I don't know if they require censorship at when I'm writing for, so
I'll
I'll have to
try not
ask
to
that
S word
question.
anymore.
I
Yeah.
won't on my podcast though. So this whole thing reminds me there was like a documentary that Frank Zappa did, and he was talking about how on his film 200 Motels, like the classical musicians and everybody involved in there was just as bad at destroying their hotel rooms as like the rock bands were and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah, that's at least from my memory. I haven't
Oh,
watched it recently, but I don't know. That might be neither here nor there. But this movie did kind of remind me about that because when people think about classical music, they usually think about I don't like dignity and stuff like that. But
yeah. No,
no, there
really.
isn't
No, you're
always dignity.
you're absolutely right. Like the general public, and that's one of the big reactions I've had from non-musicians is that they're shocked. They had no idea that there was this sordid underbelly to the whole thing.
Sure.
And for classical musicians who see it, their general reaction is like, "Oh, thank God, somebody's finally telling this story." Because we've all known, everybody knew for decades.
And why do you think these elite institutions have been so resistant to accountability? Do you think they're afraid like more about the loss of standing, or is it like a legal thing? Which do you think is more of a powerful fear for them?
Well, I think it's ridiculous. Their priorities are ridiculous. Like
Yeah,
that they would rather protect Mr. Famous horn player or something rather than protect the students who he's abusing. But it happens over and over and over, as you've seen in the film. And I think it's always like look for the money. The famous horn player is bringing in these students who pay a lot of money. They don't want to lose the money that they'll lose by losing the famous horn player. I think that's a big part of it. A lot of it also is reputation, word of mouth. Curtis doesn't need the students to pay because it's a full scholarship school, but for the world to know that they basically ignored child rape for years and years, well, that's like a problem for them. So they're going to try to shut that up and put it under it doesn't make them look very good. So I think, and that's the thing that has to change. They're going to have to say at some point, this is wrong. This is completely wrong. And we should do everything possible to make sure it never happens again. And that's what I'm hoping this movie will do. It'll bring pressure from the outside, not just within classical music, but from
Sure.
the greater public, who are in the end the people who buy the tickets to the orchestras. you know?
Oh yeah.
So it's going to take that kind of pressure to really affect change in our world.
So now that you have experience making a film, is there anything you would say that films could do that music can't? Like, do you think you would be able to convey these messages in song form?
Well, I'm not a songwriter. And
Okay.
basically, in classical music, what we do is it's kind of abstract. Like, we can't, well, I mean, we could write a symphony about it, but nobody's really going to understand what's meant. So for me, that's why I turned to film, because this is a medium that everyone can digest more or less easily, and also it's a place where I can put a lot of stories into one place, and I can have a lot of people see it eventually. We have the world premiere this weekend, and after that, then I hope to go to a whole bunch more country premieres and European premiere and oceanic premiere, and the more people that see it, I think is well, for me, that's the important thing, having people see it. That's all I care about.
And you also composed the original score, correct?
I scored it. Yeah. I mean, there is some there is some music by, for example, Schubert that runs throughout, and there's also some archival and historical recordings of myself, and so that's obviously not written by me. But yeah, the soundtrack is about 70% made for the film. Yes, and also played by me and
Okay.
others.
And what was your approach of to that aspect? What sort of themes did you sort of weave into your score?
So there's an idea of Death and the Maiden, which goes throughout. And that's a song that became famous because, or it's a poem actually that became famous because Schubert set it to song. And then right before he died, he took that song and he made his most famous string quartet out of it. So Death and the Maiden, the string quartet, is one of Schubert's most famous pieces. And that trope kind of reminded me of what all of us have been through. The idea of like, there's a young woman and here comes death, sometimes portrayed as like a skeleton or something, saying, here, come to me, I'm ready for you. No, I'm too young. I have life left and stuff. And then death is like, oh, it won't hurt, come into my arms, my lovely, come and sleep. And it really reminded me of like, of these old men and young women, and like kind of almost like, oh, it's not gonna hurt, it's gonna be okay, come on, here's some candy, come into my van. And obviously I'm paraphrasing here again, but and so that song is quite terrifying when death begins to speak. Like, he just speaks in a monotone, but underneath the bass is always changing, and it's really it's goosebumpy. And so I used a lot of that rhythm throughout, the bum, 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 bum. For example, the Dear Lara theme starts out on the A and E strings because that's what every child starts with, is the A and E strings. And that's how you tune. You learn how to start that way. You play Mississippi Hot Dog or whatever. So kind of a throwback or a little tribute to the age of some of these people when they began. And then and yeah, and otherwise just I wrote for string quintet, so string quartet with bass, so it's quite bass heavy actually. I'm a big bass fan.
And your brother is in this as well. So what was it like working with him, especially on? Well, this is sort of an unusual project, right? To
Yes.
work on with a family member. So how was that whole dynamic?
So I mean, as you saw in the film, back when all of this happened, he himself was a child.
Sure.
Nobody knew what to do, and he wasn't really clear on what exactly happened because I didn't feel like it telling, so anyway, but in the recent years, I mean, he's become a very staunch ally, so much so that when he was teaching at Colburn in California, um, and he realized that they were covering up crimes, basically, he spoke up. And when they decided they weren't going to change their ways, he resigned. So he changed his entire life because he believes so strongly that this shouldn't be happening. And so
Sure.
he's a really great ally in that.
And let's see, where was I here? Oh yes, some viewers, they might not be students or young musicians. So, what would you want them to take away from this movie about these types of institutions? What would be
Well,
your
we're
message to them?
we're kind of a microcosm of the world. I know I can't change the whole world, but I think I can change the world of classical music. And what needs to happen in both worlds is basically, I know this sounds like the New York subway, but if you see something, say something. Like, don't just allow this to happen if you know about it. You know, try to help, even if you hear third hand, second hand, look into it, see what's going on. Wait, I heard about this. Wait, do you think she's okay? Like, and go find out. And I know I keep using the word ally a lot, but be an ally. Like, I don't know if you remember a couple of weeks ago, there was something on Air Force One or whatever, and that person said, "Oh, shut up, Piggy," or something to the only woman who was reporting there. And there's like 10 men in the same room, and they just stood there and they did
Sure.
nothing. And so my thing is, do not be those men. you know,
Good
like,
message.
even if you hear some kind of misogynist joke or something, say something about it. Like, hey, that's really not appropriate here. You know?
Or like the claims that they're eating the cats and dogs in Ohio or something.
Well,
That should
that's
have
a
been immediately disqualifying as far as
let's not get into that because that'll be another
oh
few
yeah, it could
million
be
hours. Yeah.
yeah,
No, but just, a lot of times people think, "Oh, well, I don't want to even try to help somebody if I think it might hurt my little pinky finger
sure,
a tiny little bit." Yeah, don't be like that. Help these people. we
sure.
we need help, we need allies, and we need people to stand up with us against predators.
And at the risk of playing devil's advocate, there were no stories that came out that you thought sounded like they were false or anything. Just for the record, like all of these stories, they sounded valid.
Um, I didn't hear from anyone who I thought was making up a thing
Sure.
at any
And
point.
because that's like a thing you'll commonly hear whenever Me Too comes up as a topic.
Well,
And
it's victim blaming, basically.
sure, sure,
Yeah, which as I said earlier, absolutely abhor. And I really just can't understand it from people. And that's why when I say I'm not interested in having further conversation with somebody who's victim blaming, why are they victim blaming? What's in their closet? That's what I always wonder. Like, why are you trying to say this person lied? Is it because somebody could say the same thing about you? So I find people who say that kind of thing and who victim blame very suspicious.
sure. And are you planning to make any like additional films, either about this topic or anything else, or is this just like a one and done kind of thing?
Well, I certainly could. I mean, there are so many stories. I mean, I shouldn't laugh about it in any way, but gosh, I mean, I could probably make a Law and Order, like 20 seasons of this, because there are
Yeah,
really a lot of stories. For various reasons, there are quite a few stories that where people cannot come forward. They're for family reasons or religious reasons or something, which is a shame. And I hope that that will eventually change. But for the moment, my whole everything is to get this out there to as many people as
Sure.
possible. This particular film, because I think it's going to start the conversation, and hopefully be, you know, the little snowball that starts the avalanche, which changes at least my profession.
And there was a male who came forward with a story as well.
Yeah,
So
from the
I think that's something people out there might want to know, that it
yeah,
might
he's not,
also encourage more people to come forward if they've experienced some sort of abuse.
it's not just women. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that was he was a young man in the opera world at the time, and yeah, I mean, it's the story is the same throughout gender, throughout centuries. You know, we have to stand up against people who use subordinate people or who use their positions of power in order to abuse.
sure. Well, I guess that's all the questions I've got. I don't know. Is there
Good.
anything else you would like to comment on? Like if I've got a zit on my nose or something?
Well, I do want to say that if anyone is listening and they are in Santa Barbara, it
Yeah.
is, of course, Friday, February 6th, Santa Barbara International Film Festival at 5:20 p.m. And then well, we do have a little bit of competition, I would say, for the Sunday at 3 p.m. because, of course, the kickoff for the Super Bowl is
Oh.
3:30. But I figure people who are, you know, diehard Super Bowl fans and people who want to see Dear Lara are probably not one and the same.
Yeah.
So, and then we have another one early Monday morning at 8:20. So
Okay.
lots of
And
screenings out there.
do you think this movie will be streaming on any
Yeah, yeah.
platforms in the near future?
That's all happening kind of, I guess, behind the scenes. We're working on all of that, but you know, nothing can really happen till world premiere. So everything's going towards this weekend for now.
All right. Well, it was nice talking to you.
Nice to speak to you too.
Yep. I guess